Well, it's that time again, ranking the SpongeBob seasons. We just finished Season 8, and now it's on to Season 9. This season is significantly better than the last three. In fact, I would say it's good, but the weaker episodes are still pretty bad. Well, enough build-up, let's start with number 49. I'm pretty sure Squid Baby is most people's last place in Season 9. It's really bad, it's uncomfortable, and feels like a Season 7 episode. To me, this is by far the worst episode this season. The other ones are at least watchable, while this one is just bad. I said Squid Baby was most people's least favorite, but thinking about it, it's probably SpongeBob Youre Fired. This episode is just pathetic. It's really bad. SpongeBob is portrayed as a miserable person who only has his job. But that's not true. He has tons of other interests other than fried cooking. I don't know why they made this episode. It's really bad and just not really fun to watch. I do like some of the restaurants though. Like the hot dog one was pretty funny when I was a kid, but yeah, this episode still sucks. Kenny the cat is really forgettable. The only thing I remember is that the cat was lying or something. I don't really know. I watched this recently and it's still pretty bad. It shocked me how hated the Little Yellow Book was before rewatching the season. I never remembered it being that bad, but I was wrong. After rewatching it, it's definitely bad. Not as bad as some people say it is, but Squidward definitely goes too far. Gary's New Toy is an episode that exists. That's about all I can say about it. Don't really remember anything about it. I bet most people don't have Sandy's Nutmare this low, but I really don't like this one. The concept is just uncomfortable, and I'm not a big fan of episodes like this. Like, who came up with this episode? They were definitely going through a pretty weird time. Sanctuary used to be one of my least favorites in the whole show. It definitely grew on me, but I still do not like it. It's strange and doesn't really do anything impressive. Just a bad episode, to be honest. SpongeBob Long Pants is literally Who Bob What Pants, and that episode is not good. So of course this one sucks too. It's just not fun to watch SpongeBob act this dumb. It's too much. When I first watched Married to Money and the concept was put out, I thought it would be the worst thing ever created. It's not, but seriously, who came up with this stupid idea? It just makes me feel awkward, and it's just weird. Seance is just weird, and not in a good way. All these ghost thingies come together, and it just gets out of hand. The concepts for these Season 9 episodes are very out there, and sometimes it makes it good, and sometimes bad, and that's the case for Seance. Patrick obsesses over one of his baby teeth in the whole tooth. It's as weird as it sounds. The ending was the only redeeming quality of this bad episode. I like the tooth fairy part, it's pretty funny, but yeah, this episode's not good. The fishbowl is very out of character for Sandy. She puts SpongeBob and Patrick in a situation where they fight each other. Unlike usual, where she's very nice, she just feels off, and it makes a pretty cool idea completely wasted. Bumper to Bumper is another dime a dozen boating school episode. SpongeBob fails his test and then almost succeeds until everything goes wrong. Do something new with this stupid school, please. It's really getting old. SpongeBob is an absolute moron in Evil Spatula, and it makes an otherwise cool concept pretty bad. Also, what's with these episodes having evil spatulas? There's so many of them. Lame and Fortune is just proof that SpongeBob can turn anything into an episode. Fortune cookies. Like, how do you make a whole episode about fortune cookies? They don't even taste good. It doesn't mean it's a great episode. It still has major flaws, but I'm still impressed they made an episode about fortune cookies. Mutiny on the Krusty is a cool idea, but they stole the bag so hard on this one. They only left the Krusty Krab like one time, if that. Just explore the areas and stuff like they did in SB129. It would have made it so much better. Snail Mail is an extremely forgettable, and I honestly don't even care about it. It has a cool idea, but it's not great. Definitely not the worst, but they could have made it better. Literally have nothing to say about this one. It's literally just an episode. Sold is pretty funny, but it's just stupid. They make a house out of trash from the Krusty Krab. It's just weird. I would have preferred them to look for other houses like they did in a later episode that we'll get to when it's time for that video. But honestly, this episode just sold the bag. Eek and Urchin is pretty funny, and I like the concept, but I don't like urchins. Yes, that's my legitimate reason for putting this episode so low. When you read about Yeti crabs, it feels like nothing happened. And honestly, that's what I feel about this episode. Literally nothing happened. a Yeti happened, and that's all I remember. Like, who cares about Yetis? Salsa imbecilicis is just a bit too much stupidness for me. Also, Patrick is not as dumb as the people who are changed. They were all absolute morons. While we've seen Patrick has been seen actually doing intellectual things. I mean, there's a whole theory that he's actually like some genius. Well, clearly this one disproved that theory, because he's not. Goodbye Krabby Patty is a cool episode, and I do like the ending. But the middle part with the factory and Patrick becoming a businessman was just not the best. I still kind of enjoy it though, it's much better than the other ones so far. Copy Bob Ditto Pants is a fun concept. It doesn't really do much. SpongeBob has clones that Plankton made, then they disappear. There, simple middle of the pack SpongeBob episode, nothing wrong with that. It Came from Goo Lagoon is a pretty solid, long episode. It's well made and doesn't feel too rushed. My only problem is the really weird concept. They execute it pretty well, but it's too crazy. Like a lot of episodes in this season. I mean, like, what is this? Just a giant goo ball? Pineapple Invasion is one of the most off-the-wall, crazy SpongeBob episodes that I've seen. But considering that, it does pretty well. The final few minutes were out of this world, but that's what made it pretty good. The craziness in this episode actually fit, unlike some other ones, like the previous one. Since when did Mr. Krabs become so nice? I asked myself this question many times during Tutor Sauce, and I still don't know the answer. I like it though. What's Eating Patrick is a surprisingly funny episode. Patrick doing a food competition is a cool idea, and they execute it very well. I like the kid who kept showing up, and how Patrick got to take away his taste to commit to the competition. It actually showed him using logic, which really makes you think, how smart is Patrick? In Salsa Imbecilicis, he was an absolute moron, but in other ones he's not that dumb. Also, Joey Chestnut is not the greatest athlete of all time, please stop. I really like Planktons Picnic, until the end. The parts where the Krusty Krab employees were using Planktons Picnic was cool, and I like the idea of a picnic. But I don't like the end when it revealed everything was fake. That was kinda gross, but I still like this episode. When I was looking at lists, some people had Patrick Band at the bottom, and some had it at the top. I have it around the middle. I like the idea, but I think it goes a bit too far. It is one of the better Patrick episodes in the season, though. It's kind of like Hall Monitor, in the fact where someone just takes something completely way too far and ends up hurting the town. I do like the end, though. It is funny. Squids Defense is one of those episodes that you really enjoy when you watch it, but you don't remember what really happened after you finish. And that's exactly what I'm going through right now. In fact, I kind of forgot what this was about. Oh well, let's just move on to the next one then. Two Thumbs Down is a really creative episode that I did enjoy quite a bit. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, who cares about thumbs? I've never thought about that once in my life. Why did they make an episode about that? But it ended up being pretty good. I mean, the song in the middle was also pretty funny. It's kind of weird we never got a Larry episode before this one, but it was worth the wait. Larry's gym is good. I'm not a working out type person. I've never worked out in my life, and I've never really cared too much about my appearance, but I find Larry a really funny character, and I like what they did with him in this episode. So yeah, good episode. Squid Plus One is a really cool episode with Squidward. Squidward always has episodes like this, where he finds happiness and is actually rewarded, and at this point, I don't really care anymore. Just keep Squidward the way he is. This episode is good, but it definitely felt repetitive. Squirrel Record is a cool episode with a lot of creative ideas. The different records Sandy has to break were fun, and I liked having a Sandy episode to start the season. I do enjoy Sandy, especially when she's like this and really enjoys what she's doing. It makes it enjoyable. Extreme Spots is paired with Squirrel Record for the first episode, and I think it edges it out a bit. I love the new characters. They were really funny, and I liked how SpongeBob kept on getting his mind blown by how crazy they were. The only thing I didn't like was that weird guy who was seeing extreme spots. He was annoying, and I don't know why he was even in the episode. I guess it was just to give it a name. The executive treatment was higher on other people's lists, and I see why. It's really funny, and Patrick is very funny, but to me it goes by a bit too fast. It felt like they were rushing, and I wanted them to do a bit more with the work concept. Still a good episode though, but I think it would have been better either as a longer episode, or they just went right to the business part. Don't Look Now is a very relatable episode for some people. I'm not a big horror movie fan, and I always get kind of freaked out during them. There's only a select few horror movies that I like. Get Out and The Shining are my favorites. but those ones aren't even really scary, so. Squidward dressing up as a horror character was very funny, and I love SpongeBob and Patrick's reactions. This was just a good episode. Lost in Bikini Bottom is a really fun episode. It doesn't have a meaning or anything, but it's cool to see all the weird ways SpongeBob tries to get home. It's just a fun ride, and there's never a dull moment. A lot of the best episodes this season are just plain fun and got no meaning at all, which you'll see later. Planktons Pet is a really cool episode and just barely misses out on my top 10. Plankton gets a pet to get a Krabby Patty from the Krusty Krab, but he actually ends up liking the pet. Even if I'm the opposite of a pet person and think cats and dogs are both annoying, I still like this episode. Jailbreak kicks off our Season 9 top 10. This episode had no way of being bad. Plankton working with a bunch of prisoners to get out of jail. Yeah, it's kind of weird this didn't end up as number 1. The side characters were hilarious, and them idling Plankton is also hilarious. This episode's not really missing anything. It's just like, there's a few that I just enjoy more, but this one definitely has one of the best concepts. Food Con Castaways is another really fun episode. It's kind of like Lost in Bikini Bottom, but the rest of the cast was there, which makes it way better. All the employees and Patrick try to get to Food Con, but get involved in multiple unfortunate events. You know what would actually be a cool episode? Exploring a food con. The episode we got was cool too, though. Safe Deposit Krabs is a great episode. There's two different stories. Krabs getting stuck in the bank, and SpongeBob and Patrick trying to break him out. Watching Mr. Krabs go insane is hilarious, and I think this concept is amazing. Mr. Krabs gets stuck in a bank full of money. Sounds like a dream for him, but ended up being a living hell for him. Very powerful, except Mr. Krabs doesn't even realize what's going on, so I guess not. Mall Girl Pearl is actually most people's number 1 of the season, which I get. It's really cool, and I like that they did stuff with Pearl. But I also just don't like Pearl. I don't have this as one of the best episodes in modern SpongeBob, but I totally get why a lot of people do. Bulletin Board is actually a very meaningful episode. Yeah, it's SpongeBob, but it actually conveys its message perfectly. Criticism and trolls online is an actual problem that is actually unsolvable. We can't get out of it unless we get rid of the internet, which wouldn't please anyone. I'm not even on social media that much, but this episode still really impresses me because whenever I am, there's always some dumbass doing something. Kicking off the top 5 of Season 9, Patrick the Game is a great episode. Patrick tries to do something with his life, and it is a lot of fun. The sequence of him making all the games are cool, even if they all are terrible games, and the final product is really funny. The end scene where everyone plays the game is also just enjoyable. Just an overall great episode, and oh my god, those snacks look so good. The sewers of Bikini Bottom is really good. The visuals in the sewers are really fun to look at, despite it being a sewer. And the new characters and setting of the sports stadium is cool as well. This episode is never boring and has tons of fun SpongeBob and Squidward moments. It's just a great adventure. It's kind of weird this isn't a special to me. Like, this definitely had potential to be a special. They introduced a completely new place. I know absolutely nobody has Sharks vs. Pods in their top 3, but I don't care. This episode is hilarious. The Sharks are such a hilarious parody of gangs. I love how all of them are actually great people. I love how they all have similar names and how they're so generic. But the best part is the end. When Squidward ends up being part of these pods, they just started dying. And then all these random people started to dance for no reason. There's a reason I've seen this episode more than almost any episode ever. It's just hilarious. Pull Up a Barrel was really fighting with the number 1 spot, and I totally get why people have it there. I love the idea. Mr. Krabs telling SpongeBob and Squidward a story about his old Navy days, and all of the main cast play a different role in his story. It's awesome seeing who's who. But the best is Patrick as the captain. He's hilariously aggressive and is a big part of what makes this episode great. Mr. Krabs is also great. Well, it's time for number 1. A License to Milkshake is my number 1 for Season 9. I love this episode for so many reasons. I love SpongeBob going to another school that's not that goddamn boating school. I've had enough of that stupid Mrs. Puff and that stupid school. I can't even drive. Milkshakes are where it's at. The tests that SpongeBob does are hilarious and get more creative as it goes on, and the new teacher is the star of the show. He just gets more annoyed at SpongeBob's antics as the episode goes on. But then at the end, he has this tragic backstory as he gets trapped inside the milkshake maker. It actually gives him a character arc, which usually doesn't happen with side characters. I would say he is definitely one of the best one-episode characters the show's ever given us. And he makes this creative, enjoyable, and hilarious episode even more enjoyable. Though this probably is one of the weaker number ones, it's still amazing. Watching Season 9 after all those bad seasons was really refreshing. It is a good season, and one that I watched a lot growing up, so it was nice to revisit them. Season 10 is a season I haven't watched since I was young, so I'm excited for that, and you should be too.